Hi, everyone. My name is Tahra and I am here with my co-host, Gary Winslet. Today, we have two very special guests with us today, both from the great California YIMBY. We had Eduardo Mendoza. Edward is the policy director at the Livable Communities Initiative and a Los Angeles-based urban planner. He sits on the board of Abundant Housing LA and previously chaired Inclusive Santa Monica, has worked with Santa Monica Forward, the Parking Reform Network, and the Palms Neighborhood Council. He has a master's in planning from USC and is also a demographer whose work has appeared in Cityscape and Slate. And joined with us as well, we have Alameldin, who is a senior advisor at California YIMBY, where he leads research and shapes the organization's 5-year legislation agenda, focused on the barriers to housing production that go way beyond zoning. He was previously a policy associate at UC Berkeley's Tenor Sounds for Housing Innovation, has advised at Build Casa and worked at the Green Lighting Institute, and his work has been cited everywhere from the Atlantic to the White House. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Previous White House, not this one. Anyway.
Back to the good old days. So today I would love for us to start off on talking about a very real problem that we have in California that also gets pretty localized in Los Angeles. It's the fact that we don't build condos anymore. I rent out of a condo. And if I opened up Zillow for my local area, I would not be able to find anything of this square footage for the similar price at all. So I am stuck with golden handcuffs. And there's a very real policy reason why we do not build condos here. I know there are a couple bills that you guys have championed. So I would love to start off with an overview for whoever would like to take that. And so the bills that you guys have championed on to combat this issue.
So California YIMBY's legislative agenda this year is, wow, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We're tackling a few key issues. Number one, we're going to make it easier for people to pre-buy units. AB 1406, it's a pre-sales. So basically, everywhere else in the world, if you have 12 people bidding on a home,
Mm-hmm.
and the home price goes from $1.1 million to $1.7 million, like, a developer would find those other 11 people and be like, hey, give me your down deposit. I'll build you 11 new units and you guys can live in those in 2 years. We basically made that impossible in California. And sort of like, the reason why is because developers used to run off with the money, right? But then we invented this thing called computers. And we have this thing called bonding and insurance. And like, anywhere from Egypt to Guatemala to Germany to Singapore, they all pre-sell units. We don't have that in California. We're trying to fix that with 1406. The other issue for condos is construction defect liability, sometimes wrongly called condo defect liability, but it's construction defect. So what happens is that if you have any defects on your home or there might be defects in your building, a lawyer comes to your HOA and your HOA has to sue the developer, and then the insurance and HOA fight it out for 5 years, and then there's a big settlement, and it's like this long litigious process, and no developer wants to sit in a courtroom for 3 to 5 years. And it's like, if you, let's say you did have a leaky window and then you got to wait 3 to 5 years to get money to fix it. Okay, you fixed the window, but now everything around the window is moldy. So what we're trying to do here is like, and it increases the costs. And condos always have to compete with rental housing units. Like, what am I going to build? I want to build the one with less headache. And it's rentals because they have a 4-year liability instead of a 10-year liability. And what we're trying to do with AB 1903 is just take the lawyers a little bit out of the process. And it's like a car. If I have an issue with my new car, I take it to the dealership and they fix it. If I have an issue with my condo, I could go to the builder and they fix it. And that's our first step in actually making condos a little bit more popular in California.
So that all makes a lot of sense, because it got me thinking about a few years ago, I visited some friends of mine in Minneapolis and they own a condo, and it was nice. We were just like pretty close to downtown. We could like be in the urban center, but like they didn't want to have their own like house in the suburbs. They wanted to like live in the city. And so like a condo was just like a way to do that. So I'm always like a little stunned that like California doesn't do that, because like as great as Minneapolis is with all of its like bike trails and sort of like light rail and urbanism, like you could do that in California. And like, I like winter, but most people would prefer the California weather to the Minneapolis weather. And so I'm always just like surprised. Like, to me, it feels very self-sabotaging that California doesn't do more to just like make condos like the real starter home.
Yeah, everywhere else is the real starter home. What we did is that we passed a bunch of random laws in the 1970s and early 2000s that weren't well thought out,
Hmm.
and now we're dealing with the consequences. Condominium construction, we only build 3,000 condos in California per year. So out of 100,000 multifamily units,
Hmm.
all of them are apartments except for 3,000 of them. And it's like we make more babies in 2 days than we build condos in a year. So it's like this it's not working.
Yeah. Well, it also creates this weird like two-tier market. Like you have like really wealthy people who can own a whole house, and then you got like renters who like can't own and they're in apartments. And it's just this for a place that like is fairly left-leaning and like rhetorically cares about equality. It's got this very odd sort of, the aristocrats and the sans culotte like down below. Like it's not a great social setup.
Oh, dude, yeah, we destroyed the homeownership ladder, right? Like we're
Hmm.
creating a more economically segregated society because we've outlawed condos 100%. You're more likely to own a home because your parent died than you to buy a condo in California right now.
Yeah.
Like it's
We're
messed
living in
up.
an inheritance economy. If you are a boomer or you know that you're going to inherit something later in life, like you are set off. But for everyone else, like the economy used to feel like a waiting room. Like I just need to get a little older. I just like need to get a good job. And then like the market will have also caught up to me and my financial needs. And that's just not the case anymore. And we have kind of like we've lost the plot on what people can agree to be a starter home and what people feel like they should be, to the point where everyone is only ever going to be a renter forever, which is fine if you are going to be in that financial stability ladder. But like we're forgetting a large bottom rung of people due to that.
Mhm.
Absolutely, especially in like really like high market areas where for a really long time we kind of stretched the starter home ownership I guess ladder to include townhomes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Townhomes are really valuable in a lot of areas, but in places like San Diego or Los Angeles or San Francisco, they just won't cut it. You need the density of a condo in order to make a building pencil out for ownership, and just creating those opportunities are very valuable.
I wanted to ask about one of your more recent bills. I guess this has been just like over a year now. SB 1123, which like unlocks a lot of like the small lot starter homes. Tell me the mechanics behind that, how it was getting that passed, and what we have seen now a year later.
Yeah, definitely. So SB 1123 is an expansion of SB 684. And this year we have SB 1116. So each year
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to make the bill better. And but SB 1123 sort of we were like, okay, we allowed so any multifamily home you could split it up to 10 times or build up to 10 units of like condos or apartments in the remaining, like in the lot, basically. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, existing land, you could build more housing here. SB 1123 also allows that in single family zones.
Mm-hmm.
We already allow ADUs in single family zones, but the benefit of SB 1123 is that if you allow for lot splits, these are units that are going to be for sale, so more home ownership opportunity. The average size of those 10 units has to be like 1750 square feet. So you'll have a lot smaller units, a lot larger units, or somewhere in the middle, but it's a lot smaller than like the 2,500 square foot single family home we see everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And each year we're trying to make it better. This year we're trying to make it so HOAs and CCNRs don't restrict it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, like CCNRs could say like no black people and no lot splits from like 1930, and the city will say like, oh, we're not going to enforce that.
Yeah.
But then like any private citizen could sue. And like the thing about lawsuits is that like even if there's no grounds, if you're delaying construction by a few months, project goes
Yeah.
under. So we're
Mhm.
just trying to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah. No,
Let's
I
talk
think that's
about
great
progress
because like
too, but
no,
go on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great because like no one with a straight face will defend some of that nastiness anymore. like you just can't, like nobody's on board with like that staying on the books, but the fact that like there's this like potential risk is what's doing the thing. So I love hearing that that's going to get cleaned up. I did want to ask about within that, are there minimum lot sizes in that bill? Because those can like those are more prevalent in the Northeast than on the West Coast, but they can sneakily kill projects if you have to put a starter home on this like lot that's too big for it, where land's expensive.
Yeah, so the minimum lot sizes are for multifamily, I think it's 600 square feet. For single family, it's about 1,200 square feet, so a
Okay,
lot smaller than usual.
those are
But
good.
we're seeing like an ADU boom. Like we're seeing a
Yeah.
boom similar to what
Mhm.
we saw in ADUs. Like I think Riverside is going to have like 400 projects come online. I think South San Jose is like another 100. One is completing tomorrow in San Diego. I'm going to go check it out. We're seeing like a boom similar to ADUs in 2019. So like, but these are homeownership opportunities, which is
Yep.
awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
cool bill.
No, that's great. So I love how because we're so used to talking about zoning when it comes to housing for like obvious reasons, but I so love the fact that we're like starting to think about like other stuff besides just like the zoning. So I know we're going to get to single stair later, so I kind of want to bracket that off. And we just talked about condos. Are there other like non-zoning reforms that you think are like potentially super helpful?
Ooh, where do I start? Ed, you want to take it first, and I'll add some more.
Non-zoning reforms, so things within the codes you might be referring to. Yes.
Yeah.
Or anywhere, wherever your mind goes to, get creative here.
Okay, so right now we're trying to dismantle the myth that a lot of people say that we're stuck at building costs or hard costs and soft costs. We are challenging that notion. One way that we're doing that is by looking into elevator reform. We overpay in the United States for our elevators, I believe, 2 to 4 times compared to the rest of the world. And a lot of that is tied to, I would say, bureaucratic and, I would say bureaucratic and policy inefficiencies that are not directly related to fire and life safety, which is a central theme in a lot of topics covering the building code. We're also looking into expanding what the residential code can be. So for context, there are 2 major codes that govern how we build housing in the United States. One's the residential code, which typically will cover 1 to 2 homes. And then there's the commercial code, which will do 3 to as many as you can fit. And there not being a middle ground or an expanded middle ground is a problem. And so right now what we're doing is we're attempting to tackle this on both sides. We're saying for commercial buildings, what are ways to make our buildings, still conform to life safety thresholds while also adopting better electrical code practices. So we don't overkill the amount of electricity that goes into a building or elevators or plumbing, right? And then on the residential side, we say, how can we utilize or upgrade or make our residential code a little bit more resilient in order for it to accommodate a triplex or a fourplex, buildings that would more naturally fall under the residential category. Sorry,
I want to ask you about the elevator thing because like, every time I've been part of a conversation in DC about elevator reform, it runs into a brick wall of like the unions don't want it, or before they even take it to the unions, it's just fear of the unions, not like it shuts it down. Like California is like a fairly high union density state, and they're politically quite strong.
Yeah.
Have you figured out a way to get the unions to be on board with elevator reform?
I mean, we're always happy to reach out and get them to understand where we're coming from. I think a big lesson that we should learn from this type of reform is the people that are impacted by the reform. For example, in the United States, we trail far behind most other countries in the amount of elevators that we see in new buildings. It's very common in other countries to see an elevator in a 2-story or 3-story building. You almost never see it here. It's very common. You see elevators in a 10-unit building. Anywhere else, you don't see it here, and that has real life consequences, right? It's people, it's accessibility, it's the pool of people that you could sell a building to. It's senior living. It's people with disabilities. It's people with children. Let's say you live on the third floor of a building and you get injured one day. Are you out of luck because you can't get up to the third story of a building? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a voice for these people to say, we understand that you have a sweetheart deal with the elevator monopoly, right? Because there are only 3 major companies in the US. Like, we understand that you're getting paid really, really well. All that we're trying to do is we're trying to expand the amount of elevator installations that we want to get across the country. Maybe it'll be a little bit less money per elevator, but in large, there's a lot of opportunity to do either new elevators in new buildings, extra elevators in new buildings, or retrofits of older buildings with elevators. And I think it's a deep win-win situation for all stakeholders. It's just a matter of challenging, the status quo.
No, I think the retrofits is an especially good place to start, because you're comparing the building to it has an elevator if you can retrofit it in. Right now, it doesn't have an elevator at all. That's just, to me, that feels like the first place to go, of just that would be really helpful.
The way I usually describe it to people, and my bad, let me just finish this one and then I'll let you
go off, Ed. Well,
this is usually people understand the problem when I frame it like this. You guys know about the McDonald's ice cream machine problem? When you're on the drive-thru,
it's always broken.
It's always broken, and you never know why. You guys want to know why? Because it's not true anymore, because they recently changed the policy. But for the longest time, it was true, because there's only one company that could service your machine.
It's illegal.
And it was up
protesting.
To that. Exactly, to send their service tech, right? You couldn't be an owner of a McDonald's franchise and say, hey, look, the dispenser hand, it broke. Let me order something off of a catalog, right? And hire a guy who has a license to install it. That'd be illegal. You can't do it. You have to wait for the guy from the company to come. And if you want him to come faster, you got to put him, put a little money on the side to give him that little the confidence to arrive, within the time frame.
Yeah, and it's
exactly
to justify that.
Huh?
I was just saying, and it's the McDonald's ice cream machine. It's not some high margin business activity that justifies paying money to the side to get the guy to come.
This is with many home renovations, though. I had a friend in DC who is, by his career, is a regulatory lawyer, wanted to remodel his bathroom. Nothing, it wasn't intense, wasn't going into the plumbing or at all, just a basic remodel. And the amount of people he had to call to go through to pass all the permits to get the correct people over there, people were telling him the wrong thing. And this is from the DC, the DC government were telling him the wrong thing so many times, where it ended up being such a costly project that he's just I'm never doing this again. How does the average person go through this? It's maddening.
Good. I know a planning director that has unpermitted work because he couldn't deal with the process in a different city that he lives in. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
and if I could add to the elevators, I'm on the board of this like church that owns like this affordable senior housing. We have to fix like one of the elevators, and it like fixing an elevator and then having like a warranty on it so they could come in and fix it anytime for like the next 2 years was like $380,000. And these are seniors, right? And then I said that to Ed, and Ed was like, "Wow, you got a good deal. They could charge a lot more."
Oh,
Seriously.
they gave me the sweetheart deal for the seniors.
It's literally the same elevator that was built in the same factory in East Asia, that was run by the same company based in Europe. The same elevator in Switzerland, which isn't even part of the EU, that has their own structures or whatever. They'll get it at a fifth of the cost.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
This is actually one of the wildest examples. So I did my doctoral dissertation on regulatory trade barriers. So I can like nerd out on these like international differences. And even in the universe of like cases I know of, this one's like extra clear and extra just like mind blowing how nonsensical it is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And if we could talk about beyond zoning to get back to the
I was
original
going to say, I
question.
want to
yeah.
circle back because I want to hear your like top 3 outside zoning reforms.
Oh yeah, so this is like mostly my job. Is like, okay, why are things not getting built? So number one, if I could add to Ed's thing about the residential code from 3 to 10 units, it would save 20% on hard costs, and that's conservative. If we allow triplexes to 10plexes, build up to 10 units, and it would save like over a year delay because you work with one inspector instead of working with like 4 different inspectors with different timelines. And we could even say, hey, like these, as long as these 10 units are smaller than the biggest single family home in California, like you just use one inspector, because like the biggest single family home in California is like 48,000 square feet. But they have a more
enormous. Yeah.
Yeah, they have the most lenient codes versus if 10 middle class people want to live in homes, they have this like regulatory framework they got to deal with. Oh,
And
and
look,
you want to hop in.
And we're already seeing holes in this, or like what you always see, like the market trying to fix itself when faced with these barriers. For example, in Los Angeles, there's something called the double duplex. From the outside, it looks like a 8,000 square foot 4-story apartment, but when you look closely, you're like, wait a second, this is a duplex with 24 bedrooms and 24 bathrooms in it. That is, being sold being leased by the bedroom.
That's crazy.
We wrote a whole paper about this for Mercatus. I forgot about that, Ed. Yeah, that was like 2 years of work there.
Mohammed played in the paper.
Yeah, it was the double duplex paper by we wrote it for Mercatus. But yeah, and Mormons be buying these too because like you have 9 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, and Mormon households love it. But 3 regulatory reforms. Let me hit that real quick. So number 1, we need to catalyze finance. People think just because we legalize something that the housing finance industry is going to come in. Nah, capital's slow. They're a little scared. They don't want to be the first mover.
Especially in this environment.
Yeah. And like I could double my money with a random coin. Or I could follow Trump and how he advocates for war and pulls back and I could double my money, right? Like why would I invest in housing? So I think there just needs to be like some like revolving loans or these credit enhancements to make from the state or from another structure just to make people more comfortable investing in housing. Number 2, what Ed was saying, the building codes. It's like a dark box. Anyone could put anything in it. It makes buildings really hard to build and also really ugly. Like buildings are so ugly because we have so many codes we have to follow. And
that's a number 1 critique where many people don't like YIMBYs. They're like, we don't want a bunch of ugly looking like upzone buildings going up in our neighborhood. And like, I do understand some of their concerns. You buy a very lovely home, you put your heart and soul into it, and then you just have like 20 of the same go up nearby. I can understand the aesthetics issue that people have.
So like that. Oh yeah, go.
But it's the regulation. Like the reason they're doing.
I know. I agree.
Like follow these like totally asinine rules. Like so, I've been to a bunch of like development review board meetings where I live in Vermont, and it's unbelievable how much people want to like micromanage the look of buildings, but they don't know what they're doing, and so you get micromanaging by people who like are not trained to like understand. The craziest example of this was I was at a DRB. For a project that was going to be a bank and like 30 units of housing. And this one guy on the development review board was like, well, I don't like this. That corner of the building doesn't have any windows. And the developer had to be like, sir, it's a bank. That's where the vault is going. We don't have windows into the bank vault. And like he just like couldn't, and it's just like, come on, man. Like you are not qualified to be micromanaging. But that's what's going on is you've got regulators at the super local level micromanaging the look of buildings. And then when they look at crap, people are like, oh, capitalism. It's
You
just-
need
it
bigger
drives me
problems in
nuts.
life if you care about a window on a freaking pink
Oh my
building.
God.
Like, get bigger problems in life. I'm sorry.
Sorry for
But-
the rant there, but it's just like, it drives me nuts.
but and I mean, and there's a lot of truth behind that. A lot or big, very, very big reason of why we have the buildings that look a certain way or like shaped a certain way or have a massing of a certain way is because of our building codes.
Mhm.
And so if we want to work towards nicer buildings, say with
Mhm.
courtyards or more windows or buildings that look more quaint and modest, then you do have to understand the big technical book of codes and really point down and reform the code in a way that you will get those beautiful buildings.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I could add, so like the codes make it ugly. So like it's like, oh, like NEC standards, right, says that a kitchen island cannot have outlets anymore because it's dangerous. It has to be like a little pop-up outlet. And I'm sure it's because one company, right,
Yeah.
isn't that like a new building? One company is like, hey, we sell pop-up outlets and we're going to say it's a fire hazard. Let's put this in building codes. And then now you have these little stupid pop-up outlets and islands now. So people don't want to do it. So they just build a kitchen island without an outlet. So then people are going to go and install like extension cords from their like near their stove over to go like,
Jesus.
right. So the inside's ugly. And then the outside, on top of building codes, we have objective design standards, which are great in concept. Ministerial review. You're reviewed quickly, your building gets approved. But the city sets what it's going to look like.
Mhm.
And a lot of them are like, we must have 11 different materials. We must have these setbacks. We must have like, and it's like, it's just like, it's like if you have like 10 people writing an essay and there's like no voice and it's like really weird.
Mhm.
That's kind of what's happening. And then you have like 11 different materials and whatever. Okay, defects are going to happen because you didn't have a general contractor on that objective design board. So now you're going to have a bunch of lawsuits in the building. Like everybody just keeps getting into other people's stuff. Like just let it go. Let's just approve housing. Right. So like the permit timelines, right? Like SB 1123 is awesome.
Mhm.
Still takes like a year to get through permits and everything. After the fire rebuild in Altadena, they were saying, oh, it takes 2 weeks for us to approve plans. That's a miracle. I go to Texas, it takes 24 hours.
Oh,
Yeah. This SB 1123 project we got in San Diego that I'm seeing right now, it took them like 18 months to go through the government process. And San Diego's really fast in California standards. But they're installing the units in a day. And then they're putting in everything within a month. So we could actually build, and they're doing modular, but you can actually build the units and have everything installed and be done in a month and a half. But it's just our permitting delays are a year and a half because people just want to nitpick at random little things because planners don't have anything to do. And it's a huge problem.
So you actually brought up something that I think our audience would be interested in is modular building. That's like on the newer innovation front when it comes to housing building. And you mentioned how it is faster because of it. I would love an overview there.
Oh yeah. So modular, and I'll go over some, and I know Ed has some thoughts on this too. So like, if you ask people in the housing industry, they're like, oh, like modular is not going to be the solution. And I was kind of in that camp. But then I realized, I was like, no one actually did a concentrated push in legalizing modular and streamlining it at a state level before. And there are some reforms proposed in California this year. There are going to be better reforms proposed in the next 2 years. I promise you that, and we will work on that. But basically, it's saying, hey, like, instead of building everything on site, we could build some, if not all, of the unit off site and make the installation in someone's backyard or on a vacant lot a lot faster. So it's prefabricated, but you're building in a factory, so you don't have to deal with like, oh no, it's really windy, or oh no, it's raining. Like you could actually just build it there. It's inspected there, and through state standards, not local standards, and then they're transported onto the site. Yeah, we need to standardize stuff. Why do we have 538 jurisdictions doing their own thing? That's wild. That's like, what system does that work in? Especially during a crisis. So yeah, but there's like some issues, right? Like if you're transporting stuff from the factory, let's say from Burbank to San Diego, right? every different city and county has different rules on like how much CHP has to be around that car and to drive it over, what hours you could go on. Like you have to have a permit for each stretch of the way, and you can't do it for a whole year. It's for every trip that you do with a modular home. And it's like, oh yeah, you literally can't transport these buildings. Like you
How
have
do
to
we
do
get
this.
anything done?
Oh,
But a bunch of
there's
miracle
just a
workers.
case study of something that should absolutely be at the state level, not at the local level. If
There you
something's
go.
like safe to like put on the I-5 or whatever, it's safe for the whole I-5, not like this town versus that town. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. It
Even-
makes sense if it's like the grapevine. Like, yeah, okay, maybe we should have different times and standards for the grapevine. But like, if you're driving from like Glendale to Pasadena, like there shouldn't be different standards there. And the Turner Center has a whole paper about 40 different reforms that you can do to help with innovation when it comes to modular housing.
I didn't want to see if you had anything to add there as well.
No, I think Mohammed, you really, really covered it. I mean, the big takeaway from this is we could solve this through policy. This is not a technological constraint. This isn't an impossibility. This is something that we could address head on and significantly lower the cost of housing.
Mm-hmm.
I often joke that the internet thinks everything's conspiracy theory these days. I look around and I think everything is a policy issue these days. Every time you see something that is like a small nuisance in your life, I'm like Googling immediately what policy constraints have led us here to annoy me on this specific like Tuesday afternoon. Like that is how like dark-pilled I am on all of this.
Welcome to the club.
Well, you know what's funny though is like some of the things you bring up actually travel really well outside of like California. So like the modular stuff, like we're really starting to lean into it in Vermont more because like our margins are just like a lot thinner. Like we just don't have the same money in our like California's just like got money. And like we just don't. And so like anything we can do to like cut cost, we're like trying to do, and modular is a thing people are really leaning in on. I also wanted to ask about the catalyzing finance point, because there's a lot of areas where, you know, it might be a low income urban area or it might be a super rural area where just like the financing is like a really important deal in like being a little short of making a project pencil versus like actually getting it to where someone will build it. And so could you just say a little more about how you actually do the finance catalyzation?
Yeah, so I think we're our first one, we're tackling the biggest one, is AB 2074, which is this bill by Assemblymember Haney that we're working with the trades, with the unions, that says that cities, the biggest cities, the 7 biggest cities, could draw little maps of where they want to see skyscrapers. And it has to be union labor. And of course, you're going to use union labor when you build a skyscraper anyway. Like naturally, that's what's going to happen, right? And what we're doing is that skyscrapers have such a bad rap in California. Millennium Tower, Graffiti Tower, like, so capital doesn't want to invest in skyscrapers. So what we're doing is it proposes a revolving loan fund of $500 million from the state that goes in to replace the most expensive part of the debt with like 12 to 15% interest, with like 5 to 6% interest. And when the building is done, that money goes back to the state. And then it revolves again to another skyscraper. And what it does is that it's very Keynesian. We kind of create this catalyst where people are like, oh, like these skyscrapers are being built, people are renting them, they're mixed use or they're residential, and they're in downtowns or wherever the city wants more development. Like, okay, private capital feels more comfortable, right? Because if you have a Millennium Tower that fails, capital is not going to invest in another skyscraper in that area in San Francisco for the next like 30 years or more, or a Graffiti Tower. So like, this is how we're trying to solve it, right? And that's the issue of all housing in California, is that financial capital, if you tell them, hey, are you going to invest in California real estate? No. These big institutional investors that people are complaining about, they're like, oh, like BlackRock's buying homes and flipping it. They're not doing that in California. it's too expensive for even them
Yeah.
to do that. So it's like no one's like there's not this big corporate scheme in California with money. Like, not really, because it's so expensive. Like, you're telling me you're gonna hold on to $1 million home and wait 5 years to get $80,000 in equity? No, I could buy fart coin and make double my money tomorrow. Like, so it's like, right? We're trying to get capital more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in investing in California. When it comes to lower resource areas, when it comes to other types of housing, a credit enhancement, which says, hey, for 10% of this loan, the state will back you on this. We do this with small businesses, and we do this with other stuff that we want to promote already at the state level. So it would be like, hey, like, I know this is like a rougher neighborhood, but we want more investment here. And it's not like opportunity zones, even, and that's a very controversial thing is opportunity zones. I'm not going to touch that. But what this is like, hey, you're a developer and 75% of your debt is from a bank, 25% is from private equity. Private equity, that's really expensive, and that's actually how they invest in the housing market. Bank, can you put another 10% down for construction? And so this project could pencil, and they'll be like, okay, as long as the state covers that 10%, we'll do it.
That's something to me that makes a lot of sense. And I love how you brought up that even for these larger institutional investors, like they're making like no money doing so, which is why I find it to be so funny with like specific areas like California, especially. People are like, well, corporations are just buying up all the homes. That's why we don't have any homes here. I'm like, there are no homes to like, there's just no homes, period. Like, I don't know where you guys have come. Like, the undersupply crisis we have here is so deeply severe. I would welcome anyone to come here and start building homes. And if they make a smidgen of a profit, to me, that's better, because at least people are getting into shelter. They're getting into homes, and they're fixing up a problem that should have been dealt with decades ago. But because of like many years of well-meaning policies, like we've kind of just dug our graves so deeply. So I also wanted to go ahead.
Oh, dude, I dealt with that specifically because I tried to buy a home and I lost out to an all cash offer like a few years ago. I was like, oh man, must have been a corporation. This is evil. I talked to a homie who's like really good at housing finance. He was like, nah, like this guy most likely already owns a home. He got a hard money loan against his existing home, bought that house all cash, and then is going to refinance in 2 months to get a better interest rate. And he beat you with an all cash offer. Like everyone does this. Like you don't need an LLC. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's how it works. I was talking to my real estate agent here, and he was basically saying the same thing. And it's always so funny to me too when people say that here, because I'm like, I promise you, no one at Goldman Sachs is like, you know what we're gonna do? Corner the market in housing in Williston, Vermont. That is like our like.
That's the moneymaker.
Not going on at all.
And the way to break people completely free from private equity in the housing space is allowing for more pre-sales.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if a developer could use bank debt and a bond which is made up of deposits, which is protected and goes back to the buyer if the developer goes under, then we don't need private equity in the housing market. The United States is the only place that has private equity when it comes to new housing supply investments, unless for everything. Everyone else, it's like for small things, some skyscrapers and stuff. You go to Mexico, go to Brazil, go to Singapore, you go anywhere with social housing or market rate, they all use pre-sales and initial capital to make it, because that's the only way it pencils. We just don't do that here.
Eduardo, I wanted to move over to, we've delayed single stair long enough in this conversation.
Yes.
I did want to get to it.
Ask away.
Okay. I think within this conversation, we all know what single stair is, but just like for our listeners, walk me through why we even have the 2-stairway requirement to begin with. What's the point, and why is it that other countries don't have that?
Why do we have it? We have it because it was safe, or made buildings safer at the time that it was adopted. 2 stairs is safer than one in an unprotected building. There are terrible catastrophes where you would have a fire coming in from a unit or a room that would get into the staircase and spread out through the entire building, and you would have mass casualty effect events that were truly tragic, right? And so in the US, we typically addressed a second mean of egress either through a second internal stair or through a fire escape. That's why a lot of older buildings will have just iron fire escapes right in the facade to address this problem. In the mid 20th century, I believe that we got rid of fire escapes and ended up just mandating two internal ways of exiting a building. We, as the building code has evolved, as fire code has evolved, as all the codes have evolved, they've evolved with redundancy in mind. And there have been a lot of advances in how we build homes, how we even build our furniture, right? We have fire-resistant furniture, we have fire-resistant walls, we have compartmentalization, we have, certain lengths of how much you could travel inside of a building before needing a mode of egress. All those things combined kind of have diminished the need for a second means of egress in I guess in our contemporary setting. Other countries outside of the US, they acknowledge this, and they typically will build their buildings and systems that still maintain very, very high levels of fire and life safety, but also allow for a single mean of egress within the building. So it's a little bit of broad answer to your question, but yeah, it's at one point it was completely legitimate to fight to I guess address fires with a second means of egress. Today, I believe it's over 90% of all fires are stopped at with a sprinkler system. And yeah.
So we're talking like 1 hour firewall. So basically it takes like a whole hour to burn through the wall. So it's not just like some old pine box that goes up in a few minutes. We're talking sprinkler systems, rules about how far away from the door to the stairs. Like what else goes into, I think those are the main ones. Is there anything else that really goes into fire safety for single stair?
Oh yeah, way more things. There are limits to how large a floor plate can be. It's typically 4,000 square feet net. There's travel distances. The farthest you could be away from the exit stairs, 20 feet. There are horizontal travel distances as well. I think it's 125 feet. In some cases, there are pressurization of the stairwell, an interior stairwell itself. There are rules that do not allow a stairwell to open directly onto your unit against stock smoke spread. There are higher fire ratings for the stairwell itself. It's not a 1 hour, it's typically 2 hour fire ratings for the stairwell. I believe in some cases other walls are also 2 hours or 1.5 hour. There are the way to think about building code is through redundancy. If a system fails, there will be 10 other systems that will take in its place, right? And any jurisdiction that adopts single stair framework for their smaller, modestly sized buildings takes that into account. It's never, we're just getting rid of stair and calling it a day.
No, Mohammed?
I love that you raised your hand. You gotta go.
I raised my hand. I wanted to add something cool. And Red, I hope you guys don't hear the plane. So another thing is that, we do this 2-stair requirement. So the only apartments we could build are on this massive lot. And then, the distance from any unit in this giant building to the stairs is much farther than if we had 5 different buildings with a single stair. So it's more unsafe than if we were to adopt single stair. And Alfred Wu did this whole thing in the San Francisco Chronicle that you should look up that really illustrates this. We are trying to be so safe against fires. that Pew even says you're more likely to die in a single family home fire than you are in a multifamily home fire. That like, but we try to make it so safe that in the long scheme of things, it's actually kind of less safe.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and it's not just a safety thing. The sort of double loaded corridor, is why every apartment building in America feels like a hotel. Whereas, like, if you go to like Italy, like I lived in Italy for a year, and people are in these like lovely family style like garden apartments that have like lots of windows and like different sized bedrooms, and it's just wonderful. And you're like,
I mean,
wow,
and
that's this.
And that's why architects really love this reform. It really allows them to have the creativity to build out the type of building that you want. And it also benefits developers as well. You have a type of building that is able to adapt to different market conditions, to different tenants or buyers. And right now there is that limiting factor, and it's sadly tied to what seems to be I don't know what's the term, like a non-important piece of code,
arbitrary.
An arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
Like one thing that I see a lot today in a lot of new rentals in 501s is the concept of the windowless bedroom, aka the den, and it's almost become standardized. And you ask anybody from any other country, or even people from here, who have no idea of this unit typology, and they say that's not good, or we could do better, right? And half the time I say, this is something that we have to work with because this is what the building codes grant us, right? We can't deviate. We have to do it because that's the only way we could get the building built. Building built in the first place. Whereas that doesn't have to be a real constraint. You can have, units with windows in all bedrooms, right? You can have buildings that have courtyard space and cross ventilation and all the nice things that improve, your quality of life.
One window per bedroom, or one window per housing unit is like, that was the standard for like prisoners for a long time. They're like, that is what you have to do for prisons. But now the building codes have gotten so hard that if you want 2 windows in one space, you got to have a corner unit.
Yeah.
And everyone else has to live like a prisoner, has to have one window.
Jesus.
And I want to go back to the market conditions, is that because we've pretty much outlawed single stair, our building codes are difficult. Like other countries, when there's a housing crisis, because housing crises aren't new. Like humans have had cities for 3,000, 5,000, I'm Egyptian, thousands of years, right? There have been other housing crises. Greece had a major one in the 1920s. They were short 4 million homes, just like California. What they did is that they had this thing called polytakatia. I cannot speak Greek for the life of me, or antiparoki, where basically the single family homeowner would exchange their land to a developer for free on the condition that they get to own 2 to 3 floors of the building. And the developer would build a 6-story building with 1 stair. And then you get to build your generational wealth. And then the developer could sell the other units. And then boom. And that's how they solved their housing crisis in 20 years. I mean, your GDP growth was like 7.7% for a long time because they're building so much housing. Like, it was a major contributing factor. So it was good economically. It was good to solve the housing shortage. And then like families got to stay together. And we just cannot do that. The main advantage of single stair is that these lots for single family homes, we can actually build more units on there. And Ed did a beautiful design competition, a national design competition recently, and he should share the photos. But we could bring back beauty, and we're just not doing it.
It also goes to show, like, when people actually treat this as a crisis, and instead of what we have now, as in everyone is, we have a large group of people who are struggling under this, but we're still dragging our feet across, and we still have, like, even if we pass great bills on the state level, we'll have like a lot of local like counties and like cities do everything they can to water down these bills. It's like, okay, do you want to treat this as a crisis or not? Like, we need to have someone just like have a firm no, really focus on like state preemption and like just get it all standardized so that we can get more people into homes and stop dragging our feet. But in essence of time, I did want to open up the last question to the both of you, just for like any advocates in other states who are watching California. Obviously, you guys at California YIMBY have passed so many great bills. Still, like, it's not solved here, obviously. What should advocates be like copying here, and what should they just be like learning from as like a case study of like what not to do?
Well, so one of my hats is working for California YIMBY. My other hat is working for a organization called the Metropolitan Abundance Project. And there
Yes.
we work with different organizations that are like truly focused on, I guess, their core, I guess, policy issue. And we help them develop model legislation to then introduce to legislatures. So right now we're working on elevator reform model legislation, single-stair, number of other building codes, Model Edge. We're doing lot splits. We're doing one off of 1123 that will be accessible to the country. So we're proactively working on this, and I invite elected staff and advocates to take a look.
What I would say is that, number one, keep the laws easy. Our more complicated laws, no one's building them. So ADUs, small lot subdivisions, these are working. Sometimes laws in California are complicated because we have to negotiate with so many people. Other states have a lot easier to pass laws. And number two, we have this great thing in California called the Housing Accountability Unit and the Attorney General's office. So when cities break the laws, there's actually an enforcement mechanism to make them do something that other states do not have. And I applaud the vision of Governor Newsom on this one, actually, because it's like, oh, like, what was it? What city was trying to do a whole mountain lion habitat to get around state law? It's Los Altos. Los Altos tried to be a wildlife habitat for mountain lions to get around state law. Any other state, that tomfoolery would have worked. But here, everybody got involved, and I'm having developers with like 400 plus unit projects that are working with the AG's office against the city because they're doing illegal stuff. You don't have that anywhere else. So make the law simple and enforce them. That is the most important stuff.
Well, this has been great, and I really appreciate both of your time here. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience will as well. Do you have anything you guys are working on that you would like to plug? Now is the chance.
Oh, yes. So, the state of California is at a crossroads. The Howard Jarvis Initiative, Howard Jarvis Group is pushing something to the ballot that would limit transfer taxes to 0.01% and reverse the Upland decision, which Upland is this decision where if there's a citizens initiative of 50 plus 1%, you could fund parks and transit and other like things that we like. We don't need a 66% vote. There's this ballot initiative that's going in that's going to say, oh, we're going to limit transfer taxes because of a lot of the mistakes that LA has done.
Yes.
That has killed their housing supply. And another thing is reversing the Upland decision, which both of those things are terrible for cities because then you're going to cut fire services, you're going to cut affordable housing, you're going to cut homelessness services, etc. Both groups, for some reason, think they're going to win this ballot initiative, the left and the right. Peter Thiel put $5 million behind this. Right?
Crazy.
Us at California YIMBY, let us not do a proposition here.
Yeah.
Talk to your state senators, talk to your assembly people, be loud about this. We need to cut a deal at the state level because high transfer taxes kill housing supply. We've seen it. But also cutting transfer taxes creates a worse Prop 13 environment where we don't have any services and no one's going to want to buy a house where they don't have firefighters, right? So
especially not in California.
Especially in California. So let's talk to your legislators, talk to your people, say, cut a deal. The state needs to cut a deal to prevent this proposition, and they have less than a month to do so. And this is not a drill. We're working on this right now. California YIMBY is helping lead these negotiations, and hopefully by the time this is published, we solve the problem.
Okay, well, I think that's all. We really appreciated this.
I might.
Thank you for having us.